When it comes to funding the preservation of neglected and abandoned African American cemeteries, Congress passed an empty promise.
Why has it not been funded at this moment in time?
Well, it hasn't been funded because Congress too often engages in petty fights. I mean, it's why people don't like Washington too often.
Sherrod Brown is a U.S. Senator from Ohio. When he was contacted about an African American cemetery in his state desperately in need of repair, he wanted to act.
I heard about Union Cemetery in Cincinnati. We toured the cemetery. We saw the decades of neglect.
Brown, along with other congressional leaders, passed bipartisan legislation to create the African American Burial Grounds Preservation Act. Signed into law in December 2022, it provides a program of the National Park Service to provide grants and technical assistance to local partners to research, identify, survey, and preserve these cemeteries. Representative Alma Adams from North Carolina also sponsored the bill in the U.S. House of Representatives.
It's about the sacredness of our families and respecting people and respecting the sites that we've left them in.
Funding is appropriated through the congressional budget process. The National Park Service proposed $3 million for the program, as well as an increase of $1 million to spread across other grant programs. But after all of that, right now, there is no money. Congress didn't approve the budgets, leaving many descendant communities in limbo.
For the families who sadly have been fighting these battles to make sure that their loved ones' remains were sacred and taken care of, they sometimes feel like Congress doesn't care. People in D.C. don't care. What would you tell them?
Well, some of us care. We fought to get this bill passed. Not enough of us care, which is why we push my colleagues in Congress in both parties to do this right.
We have to get enough people to put this as a priority item. I think it is a priority item, but I also have to get my colleagues to think that as well.
Our national investigative team spent months exposing this problem happening all across the country. African American burial grounds at risk of abandonment, erasure, or being potentially destroyed by construction and development. Our team found that Black cemeteries are rarely tracked state by state. In most states, the permit process to remove remains from one location to the next is virtually non-existent for African American cemeteries, especially when historically burial grounds where enslaved Africans buried their loved ones were rarely documented or put on historical maps.
Should state agencies do more to make sure that these sites are protected?
Absolutely. States have a responsibility. The federal government has a responsibility to help the states in terms of providing the support, which is what we would be doing through the legislation that we're proposing.
If Congress can't act, families of loved ones who have passed on are hoping the judicial system can spur action.
This was the first time that a case of this sort has been argued in front of the Supreme Court of any of the 50 states.
Desecration is a hate crime.
In Maryland, the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, or BACC, is currently in a legal battle with a private developer and Montgomery County to preserve the burial grounds where enslaved people are buried. We first met Robert Stubblefield last year.
They paved a parking lot over it. That's on one part of the cemetery. The other part of the cemetery, they're trying to build a storage unit.
Well, we have to stay strong because the time is coming where future generations are going to be standing on our shoulders.
And this year, we caught up with Stubblefield and dozens of other supporters at a rally in front of the Maryland Supreme Court, following BACC's oral arguments to stop the construction.
There are times I think that we would have, that we probably would have made it far, but I don't think we would have been as strong as we are right now. Because when we started about 8 years ago, there was roughly 4 or 5 of us. And now all of a sudden we have crowds, and to the point that we didn't just pack the courtroom, we actually were overflowing the courtroom. I don't think we could have even imagined that.
Steve Lieberman, who represents BACC, hopes the case sets a tone across the country to pay attention to issues impacting Black communities and honoring the dead.
You wouldn't want somebody parking on top of your grandmother. I don't want anybody parking on top of my grandmother. The plaintiffs in this lawsuit should not be forced to watch cars park on top of their grandmothers.
Lieberman says the outcome of this case could set a precedent nationwide.
And I think people all across the country are going to be looking to this court to see if it's going to say that our legal system can do justice here.
I would
with Great Television. Just want to know if you'd like to respond.
Attorneys for the developer did not answer our questions after delivering oral arguments, but told us previously that they properly observe the laws which protect burial grounds in Maryland and that they acknowledge the significance of the African American history affiliated with this site and will continue to respect and honor the legacy in the community.
If they don't make clear what the law is, then it's open season on descendant communities everywhere. That means developers, whether they're government agencies or private developers, they can run roughshod, they can develop on any cemetery they want.
Senator Brown and Representative Adams say they'll keep pushing for federal funding and support so descendant communities can visit their loved ones' burial sites and not worry if their history will be destroyed.
There's a proverb that when you drink the water, think about who dug the well. And that's what we need to think about in these. It's the people that are buried in that cemetery that build up our communities, our black communities, our white communities, our communities overall, and we honor them.